To promo just like this one. Send us a postcard to Gone to 2, Box 2000, Southfield, Michigan 48037, and you could be on TV2. Remember, now it's your turn, Detroit. Stand up and tell them that you...
Eyewitness News at noon. Will it be life in prison or death in the electric chair? You'll hear the choices before a South Carolina jury deciding the fate of a mother who drowned her own sons.
A father beheads his teenage son and claims the devil made him do it.
A bomb goes off in a crowded bus in Israel and 6 people are dead.
And police try to catch the thief who stole an O.J. Simpson exhibit from a sports museum on this Monday, July 24th, 1995.
This is TV2 Eyewitness News at noon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sherry Margolis.
And I'm Catherine Lehan. Our top story this noon, it's a question of life or death in a South Carolina courtroom today. Jurors who took less than 3 hours to convict Susan Smith of murdering her 2 young sons must now decide whether she should be sentenced to death or get life in prison. But the hearing has been delayed today while attorneys on both sides meet privately with the judge. CNN's Brian Kubell has more now on the sentencing phase of the Smith trial.
Susan Smith is guilty of murder. She faces possible death by electrocution. Now she and her attorneys must decide whether during the sentencing phase she'll testify for herself.
I do not expect that she will take the stand. If Susan Smith took the stand, she would be fodder for cross-examination. Tommy Pope has all sorts of questions that he can ask her that she can't ask. The main one being, why did she leave this country on a nationwide search for 9 days while her children laid in the bottom of the lake?
Smith's defense team of David Bruck and Judy Clark face other serious problems as well. Prosecutors will likely try to introduce the graphic death photos of the boys into evidence and a video of the reenactment of their deaths in a submerging car. If Judge William Howard allows the photos and video into evidence, the jury of 9 men and 3 women will have powerful images to contend with as they consider life or death for Smith.
Anyone that thinks that this jury is going to presumptively give her life hasn't been in that courtroom, has not been watching them. I think that right now, unless something dramatic happens, Susan Smith will be the first woman sentenced to the electric chair in this state in the last 40 years.
That's the intention of the young prosecutors, Tommy Pope and Keith Kazay, who have steadfastly rejected a plea agreement that would keep Smith in prison for 30 years. One of their star witnesses in the sentencing phase is likely to be David Smith, father of the dead boys. Witnesses for the defense may include Susan's mother, Linda Russell, and Susan's stepfather, Bev Russell, who has admitted molesting Susan. Despite the horror of the crime, the defense does have one advantage in the sentencing phase, a numerical advantage. Only one juror has to agree with the defense. Only one has to reject the death penalty, and Susan Smith will escape the electric chair. Brian Kubell, CNN, Union, South Carolina.
Thank you, Brian. And we're told the sentencing phase of the murder trial could take as long as a week.
Another murder of a child is making headlines this noon. This time, a father is accused of killing his 14-year-old son. Police in New Mexico say the man stabbed his son numerous times, then beheaded him. This happened along the side of a highway as drivers and the suspect's younger son watched in horror. The father was arrested Sunday and told police his sons were possessed. CNN's Catherine Martinez has more on the story.
Hordes of police from all over the Albuquerque area descended on this blue van just after midnight. They were chasing the driver, 34-year-old Eric Starr Smith of Arizona. He was suspected in a grisly murder just a few minutes before. His victim, his 14-year-old son, Eric Jr. A truck driver about 50 miles west of Albuquerque told police he watched Smith attack the boy inside the van as it was pulled over on the side of the interstate. Searchers say they later found the boy in 2 parts. His body, which was riddled with stab wounds, and his head about a mile away, tossed in a construction zone.
Anytime you see, especially in my own experiences, me personally, when I've been involved with a situation in the death of a young person, it's a little emotional, certainly, and it's something that, you know, it's hard to go to sleep at night.
Also in the van at the time of the gruesome attack, the 13-year-old brother of the victim. He escaped from the family van. What followed was a high-speed chase to Albuquerque. The chase, which at times got up to speeds of over 100 miles an hour, finally ended here on I-25 near the stadium exit when Smith just lost control of his van. Smith is behind bars, charged with an open count of murder and tampering with evidence. His surviving son is in a New Mexico safe house. apparently so shaken, he still hasn't been able to talk much about what happened. For CNN, Catherine Martinez, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
And that 13-year-old son was taken to the sheriff's department. Concerned citizens have been giving the boy several gifts. And right now, the New Mexico Children, Youth, and Families Department is setting up a fund to help the boy.
Must have been a terrifying moment for a Washtenaw County woman this morning who was raped and beaten after answering her door. The Ypsilanti Township woman says that she awoke to a knock at her door at about 4:30 this morning. And when she went to open it, a man pushed his way inside. Police say the attacker ran off. That woman is now being treated at a local hospital. Police still have made no arrests. Police are holding a 30-year-old Ohio man in connection with the attack, and he could be arraigned later on today. 2 men are hospitalized after being shot early this morning on Detroit's west side. The 2 were shot inside of a vacant home on Grand River near West Grand Boulevard. One of the men managed to get to a gas station nearly half a mile away. The station attendant said the man had 4 gunshot wounds. He's in serious condition. The other man is listed in fair condition.
In other news making headlines today, 6 people are dead, nearly 3 dozen injured after an apparent suicide bombing on a bus in Israel. Police say it appears the bomber strapped the device to his chest and detonated it on a crowded bus near Tel Aviv. An anonymous caller says the radical Palestinian group Hamas is behind the attack. Hamas opposes Israeli-Palestinian peace talks. The latest round of talks about extending Palestinian self-rule in the West Bank were supposed to wrap up tomorrow. Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin says those talks will be delayed until after the victims are buried. House Speaker Newt Gingrich is on the stump in Iowa, and he's not even a declared presidential candidate yet. The Georgia Republican is making a day-long swing through the state to help raise money for a couple of GOP incumbents. Standing room-only crowds are expected at today's events. Iowa precinct caucuses in February will kick off next year's run for the Republican presidential nomination. Well, baby boomers headed for retirement need to save now in order to play later. The U.S. Labor Secretary says that fewer than half of baby boomers have put aside enough money for their golden years. A study done by the Employee Benefits Research Institute has identified 4 personality types when it comes to saving: planners who save, strugglers who just make it, deniers who won't face retirement, and impulsives who spend every cent they earn. Experts say strugglers, deniers, and impulsives need to take serious steps now in order to ensure a comfortable retirement.
There are some signs today that indicate at least one of the striking newspaper unions is starting to crack. TV2 has learned that a group of free press journalists, including columnists Mike Duffy and Bob Talbert, are stating their deep concern over a lack of progress towards settling the strike. The 2 have endorsed a letter to the Newspaper Guild which calls for an immediate resumption of talks with management. Now, this news comes on the heels of a letter to striking free press journalists that said if the strike does drag on, many of them could lose their jobs. The strike is apparently taking a toll on free press publisher Neil Shine. Shine is undergoing another round of tests today after being hospitalized with stomach pains. He's listed in stable condition today. Apparently, none of the tests has found anything seriously wrong with the 46-year-old publisher. TV2 is keeping you up to date during the strike, and at 4 o'clock, Free Press movie critic Frank Bruni will be in. Then at 5, Free Press Names and Faces writer Neil Rubin will be stopping by. At 6, it's Hugh McDermott. He'll be bringing his commentary to the Eyewitness News Report. And then at 10 o'clock, TV2 commentator and Free Press columnist Mitch Albom lends his unique perspective to Eyewitness News prime time. And I want to make a correction. Neil Shine is 64, although I'm sure he wishes he was 46.
Probably didn't mind at all that you said 46. Not at all. I think a very serious thunderstorm passed overhead just a few minutes ago.
Still humid outside, too.
Cam, tell us about it.
Well, Sherry, we have seen the very high humidity throughout the day today so far, and even some showers and thunderstorms. Nothing of the severe variety, which is good news. It's fair right now, though, at Metro Airport, 79 degrees with a very light southwest wind, 79% humidity as well. Barometric pressure is falling, and we did hit 71 for our overnight low. We're going to probably continue to see a few more scattered showers and maybe even a thunderstorm or 2 throughout the early part of the day. Then we'll get a break, and then I think the rain will fire up again tonight. 84 eventually for the high. That's very close to normal for this time of year. And from time to time, we'll also see a few peaks of sunshine. 67 for tonight, and eventually possibly some more showers and thunderstorms with mainly a light wind. Then our extended forecast looks good through Tuesday for the most part. Now, there is a chance of showers and thunderstorms pretty much each day of the work week. Temperature very toasty tomorrow, 88 degrees, upper 80s through Thursday, and then we start to cool back down, and maybe a little more refreshing air will come in here, but it is sticky out there right now.
Yeah, it is. Thanks, Cam.
Thank you, Cam. Excuse me, Sherry, go ahead.
It's okay. The Olympic Games will be held in Atlanta next summer, but we'll have our own small piece of the Olympic tradition here in Detroit. The Olympic torch will pass through Michigan for one day next year, June 9th, on its way to Atlanta. Organizers say the torch will travel from Toledo to Flat Rock to Detroit and then on to Cleveland. The torch will be carried across the country for 15,000 miles on foot, horseback, train, canoe, steamboat, and wheelchair through 42 states.
Blood evidence is the center of debate once again at the O.J. Simpson trial.
And a big mystery in Ohio. Police want to know who it was who stole the O.J. Simpson bust from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You'll get the facts when we come back.
Tonight.
TV2.
O.J. Simpson's attorneys are calling on scientific experts to help boost their theory of a conspiracy designed to convict the former football star. CNN's Jim Hill has more.
A pair of crumpled socks may get a lot of attention in the O.J. Simpson trial this week. The ex-football star's lawyers hope to show police planted them at the foot of Simpson's bed and may have tainted them with blood to frame him. Dr. Frederick Reeders is expected to testify whether EDTA was found on the socks. It's a preservative routinely mixed with blood samples, like the one taken from O.J. Simpson. Its presence could indicate blood on the socks came from Simpson's sample. It's a complicated issue because EDTA is also found in such common items as laundry detergent.
Why shouldn't I be concerned that under this experiment with this sock that the material had to be manipulated?
Last week, Judge Lancito ruled on another defense witness expected to testify this week. Herbert McDonald did experiments on how bloodstains may have gotten on the socks. But the judge ruled he cannot testify about experiments on how blood dries on the material because he didn't use the same type of fabric.
This likely was the most direct evidence the defense had that blood was planted by the police. And the loss is a serious blow for the defense.
Prosecutors are trying to keep both these experts off the witness stand altogether. The question of whether O.J. Simpson will testify is still apparently unanswered, although CNN has learned two attorneys have prepped him for possible cross-examination. One is a noted San Francisco criminal defense attorney, Christine Arguedas.
The key question with regard to O.J. Simpson testifying is whether he has a consistent, believable story for where he was between 9:45 and 11 o'clock on the night of June 12, 1994.
Another set of transcripts may be released detailing in-chambers discussions and investigations that led to the dismissal of 10 jury members over the past 6 months. The latest release is expected to deal with allegations that sheriff's deputies gave preferred treatment to white jury members. Transcripts concerning 4 jurors have already been released. Documents concerning 6 others have yet to be made public. Jim Hill for CNN, Los Angeles.
TV2 is committed to bringing you live extended coverage of the trial, and just as soon as testimony begins, we will be taking you to Judge Lancito's courtroom.
Police in Canton, Ohio are searching for the person who took a bust of O.J. Simpson from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That bust was stolen over the weekend. Detectives are searching for clues, trying to determine how the bust was taken, possibly through a rear exit. Much of Simpson's memorabilia has been kept under glass, and security has been increased ever since he was arrested on double murder charges last June. The director of the Hall of Fame said that it had to be pretty difficult to get the bust out of the building.
It is possible to get it out, which is obvious, but it takes quite a bit of work, and they had to know how to do it, and we didn't think that it would be quite possible unless somebody had all night to do it.
The Simpson bust weighs about 30 to 40 pounds. Elliott says it has little cash value.
A Minnesota man gets a super sum of money, though, for the first comic book featuring Superman. The comic is one of only 20 known copies that's still in good condition, and it has been valued at more than $31,000. Jim Kagermeyer says he decided to sell it because it was just too much trouble to have to go to the safety deposit box every time he wanted to read it. I'm sure the $31,000 had a little something to do with it,
A little bit of incentive. Hold on to those Barbies.
Amazing,
and all
isn't
those
it?
toys. Amazing. Lightning strikes a picnic ground, and some of the picnickers are hospitalized.
We'll have that story and more next on Eyewitness News, serving Canton, Trenton, and all of southeastern Michigan.
what, where you've gone to too. And you could be in a TV2 promo just like this one. Send us a postcard to Gone to 2, Box 2000, Southfield, Michigan 48037. And you could be on TV too. Remember, now it's your turn, Detroit. Stand up and tell them that you...
And the O.J. Simpson murder trial is underway in Los Angeles right now. Right now, Brian Kelberg is speaking.
Let's go to Judge Lancito's courtroom in Los Angeles for our extended live coverage.
Indicative of and presumptive for the blood having originated from a specimen which has been placed into a usually lavender top blood collection and then handwritten in as EDTA tube, such as is commonly used to draw blood from a living person and keep it from coagulating. What I believe the evidence would show, Your Honor, with respect to the analysis by Dr. Reeders is there can be among the 11 million organic compounds known in the universe, hundreds perhaps, that would give a reading, a pattern, to use a shorthand version, of findings consistent with what Dr. Reeders in his report is only willing to say is a pattern which is consistent with, indicative of, and presumptive for EDTA. It seems to me that for all the reasons expressed by the defense to keep out phenolphthalein testing, because it's misleading, confusing to the jury of the real issues and so forth, the same applies with respect to Dr. Reeder's testimony, proposed testimony, with respect to the EDTA testing of the two blood stains. This is not evidence that in fact shows there is EDTA, according to Dr. Reeder's own report. It only reflects that the result is presumptive of EDTA. And we can go into the technicalities, but basically the full spectrum that you need to see in order to say, I identify EDTA, is absent. That it is not a full spectrum, and only what is present can be used to say, in the opinion of Dr. Reeders, it is indicative of, consistent with, presumptive for. What's good for the goose, Your Honor, I submit, is good for the gander. Now, why is this important? Because if there is only one other compound in the universe, which besides EDTA could give the pattern, which is the pattern found in the stains from the gate and the socks, and from, I'll get into that, Ms. Clark, in just a moment. If there's only one other compound that could give that pattern, then the evidence may have far more probative value than if hundreds of other compounds could provide that result. But we don't know which hundreds could provide it, because, as the evidence would show, Dr. Reeders, number one, has never done this test for EDTA using this equipment. His laboratory does not have this equipment. And the laboratory that he has to go to when he wants to use this kind of equipment does not have electrospray, which is, in fact, the process used by the FBI. But it's the FBI's report and analysis which Dr. Reeders is going to come in here and talk about, supposedly. Now, I find it most curious that a man who's never done this testing for EDTA using this equipment, who doesn't have the equipment in his laboratory, and who has to go to a lab to do this kind of laboratory test but can't do it on that equipment because it's not specifically the same kind, is going to come in here and start talking about, is this EDTA or is this not EDTA? And what's important is all he's going to say, by his own admission, in his own report, is it's presumptive of. Let me give the court a further understanding of why I think it is so potentially misleading. And it is an example from Dr. Reeder's past, recent past. A very well-known case in the Southern California area, the Sconce, S-C-O-N-C-E case, oleander poisoning. The history, Your Honor. A gentleman was found dead in 1985, death attributed to cardiac arrest. A young man, a very overweight man, and a man in the funeral business, a competitor of Mr. Sconce's. There was an informant who in about 1990 suggested that Mr. Sconce, or that the victim, had been poisoned by oleander poisoning. As a result of which, the Ventura County District Attorney's Office retained the services of Dr. Reeders to perform an analysis of various substances preserved from autopsy, to determine the presence of something called oleandrin, which is part and parcel of the oleander plant and is a toxin. Let me read the court just very briefly Dr. Reeder's testimony at the preliminary hearing in 1990, October 4th, regarding his findings. In this case, 3 independent tests were done: thin layer chromatography, fluorescent spectrophotometry, and radioimmunoassay. These are physiochemically different things. The chances that a substance has all the properties in all 3 tests in common and is in actuality another substance, and his opinion was that these tests showed it was oleandrin, from experience are so extremely remote that one then has a very high degree of scientific certainty that if one says that this is oleandrin, in fact it is. 100% never. For 100% you go to the seminary, because that depends on faith. Science is never 100%. It is statistical, and it is reasonably certain the chances are remote. And if you want to go over into the area of, in that area, the hand of Almighty God can make anything happen, so possibilities, of course, are there. But it's a high degree of reasonable scientific certainty, and the operative word is reasonable. A scientist goes by reason and not by feeling. Well, the defense...
And as Prosecutor Brian Kelber continues to address the court in this evidence hearing, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
How you making out, Ann?
I'm ready to give up. Choosing the right life insurance is so puzzling. I can't find one with all the pieces that I'm looking for.
Well, what'd you find so far?
News at noon and our extended coverage of O.J. Simpson on trial.
That's Eyewitness News at noon for today, and we'll see you back here at 4 o'clock. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back for more of our live extended coverage.
2 in Touch puts you in touch. Call 810-443-2200 to get the latest local and national news, the most accurate weather forecast, or sports scores from across the country. 2 in Touch, 810-443-2200. It's constantly updated information in an instant, 24 hours a day. You choose the updates you want when you want them. What's on TV2 tonight? What's your horoscope? Make the move to 2 and keep in touch. 2 in Touch.
If you need a lawyer...
15 minutes on Eyewitness Morning at 5:30. This is a TV2 Eyewitness News special report. Extended live coverage of the O.J. Simpson trial.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Murray Feldman, and this is TV2's live extended coverage of the O.J. Simpson murder trial in the jury room. I should say the jury is not in the courtroom right now, but in the courtroom we see the prosecuting attorney, Brian Kelberg, and he's arguing to the judge in an evidence hearing. What they're talking about this week, and especially today, is blood evidence. The defense would like to call a toxicologist by the name of Frederick Reeders. The prosecution doesn't want that person to testify. Let's listen in.
Whether we carry EDT